Elizabeth was a beautiful person inside and out, always dressed like a princess. People used to say she looked like $1,000,000. She married Arthur Paquette in 1954 and they had 4 children together. They separated in 1974. During that period of her life, she spent a lot of time home alone with her 4 children, 2 of which were sick with cystic fibrosis. One of her daughters, France, passed away at 14 years old from the disease in 1975. Elizabeth worked at St. Amant Center until her retirement in 2005. She was a great cook, known for her delicious meat pies and her French cinnamon rolls called pâte de soeurs, and loved to help others. She took pride in her cleaning abilities and would often tell her family about the houses she cleaned and how she made things shine. Elizabeth was known for her contagious laugh. It was so loud and sometimes rather embarrassing. In 1980, her 3.5 week old grandson passed away suddenly, and in 1990, her daughter Lisa was struck with leukemia and needed a bone marrow transplant in Vancouver. Then in 2004, her daughter Anna, with cystic fibrosis, survived a double lung transplant. Elizabeth was always by her family's side through thick and thin. Her family was in her life. She would often help with daily chores, babysitting, and grandchildren, would regularly touch base or visit her son Mitch and his family who live in BC. Her faith in God is what gave her strength and confidence. She read her Bible every night, said her rosary every day, and even carried it with her everywhere she went. She has been on 3 pilgrimages to Medjugorje in Croatia, and when she would return from those trips, the family saw the passion in her eyes and the glow in her face from the grow in her faith. She never missed the yearly pilgrimage and the Mass for the sick. She was loved by a lot of people and truly loved those who loved her. Her children, her sons-in-law, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and her grandpups were her pride and joy. She would have given the shirt off her back at any time. You in Winnipeg terms, the woman was a saint. Your typical grandmother wears a pearl necklace, like a old white lady, having babies and great grandbabies and working with disabled people and seeing her family through, serious diseases. So on Thursday, February the 17th of 2011, Lise called Elizabeth to let her know that because of the big snowstorm, she could not go to Winnipeg for supper with Elizabeth. It had been Lisa's New Year's resolution to go to Winnipeg to have supper with Elizabeth every second Thursday. Elizabeth was disappointed because she had taken out a roast for supper, but she understood and definitely didn't want Lise to chance driving the roads. The next day was the beginning of the Festival de Voyageurs and Louis Riel long weekend festivities. It was a great weekend with friends at the festival, and but it was a very cold weekend with cold windshields. Then Lisa received a phone call from the Winnipeg Police Service midday, and they asked her if she knew Elizabeth Lafantaisie, and Lisa said, "Yeah, that's my mom. Why?" And they said, "Do you know where your mom is?" He asked her, and Lisa responded by saying, "Well, yeah, I assume she'd be at home." And Lisa was told that Elizabeth's purse had been brought to the police station there on Monday the 21st, and somebody found the purse in a stairwell in a parkade in a Summerland apartment building in Fort Garry. They continued to tell Lisa that they had tried to contact Elizabeth and she was not home, and her newspapers were piled up at the door since Saturday. "Oh my God," was Lisa's response. The police advised Lisa that the family should file a missing persons report as soon as the family could so they could officially start looking for Elizabeth. So what happened to Liz? They found her purse. It's in a stairwell. So her purse was in a stairwell, and nobody must have seen her for days, I guess. Like, newspapers are piling up at her house. It didn't seem like she'd been home. So she'd been missing for days, it seems. Lisa didn't have a good feeling about this. As soon as Lisa got off the phone with Winnipeg Police Service, she called her sister Anna, and from there the family made phone calls to siblings and significant others, and the family even called hospitals to see if maybe she fell somewhere, bumped her head, didn't know where or who she was. 6 of the family members quickly met up at downtown Winnipeg to file Elizabeth as a missing person. Lise, her husband Lucien, her sister Anna, her brother Jalise, and Janine, and her other daughter waited at the front reception at the downtown Winnipeg Police Service for a few minutes. The process was fairly quick. The family waited longer in line, and the family did end up filing her as missing. Lucien brought photos from home to give Winnipeg Police Service. The fear was visible in the family's eyes, and they kept still saying, "I'm sure she's fine, guys." So, like, the whole family shows out for Elizabeth. Okay? And most missing persons does not like that. It's not. So she was a woman who was loved, clearly, by her family, and they're deeply concerned, but they're trying to remain positive. Like, let's not fear the worst. Like, I'm sure she's fine, guys. So what happened? Like, yeah, I'm sure she's fine, right? This is Winnipeg. I'm sure she's perfectly fine when I'm talking about it. So they did not stop thinking about her that whole evening, worrying about her well-being, thinking about how cold it's been all weekend and wondering where the heck she could be. The top story on 11 o'clock news was that police were looking to help in finding an elderly woman, Elizabeth Lafantaisie, who was last seen in the Royalwood area. The family were together watching the news that evening. The whole family was born and raised in a small town in southeastern Manitoba. Everyone knows each other, and after the story went on the news, there's a lot going on Facebook and people calling and texting them. Police visited the family late that evening for them to identify some of the items that they had found. Yes, those were hers. One would think the family would feel relieved that they found something else that belonged to her and that they were getting a bit closer to finding her, but it was actually a sad feeling. It was reaffirming what they were beginning to think. It was confirming that something really bad happened to Elizabeth. One of the items they found was a pocket rosary. So it's not looking good. You know, this was a devout Catholic woman. She did her rosary every day. She'd been missing for days. They found the rosary. So what happened? Where is she? People are seeing this on Facebook. The community's concerned. What happened to Miss Elizabeth? She's on the news. I think it was at that moment that they started feeling incredibly worried. Elizabeth would never ditch her rosary. Those were sacred to her. That's when it clicked for them. Something very bad definitely happened to Elizabeth, and they couldn't sleep that night. So February 24th, 2011, the family put out a statement on the news that said, "We cannot put words to our pain, only to say that she did not deserve to die this way. We can only hope that," and, you know, what way? What are we talking about? Did she die? Like, yeah, I mean, the next morning the family all met up. The phone was ringing off the hooks. The police stayed in contact regularly. They asked the family to think back to a time if anyone held a grudge. For hours, they reminisced 30, 40 years ago, trying to think who would do this. Throughout that, there were many weird moments of sadness and crime. The family must have finished 3 boxes of tissues that day. The family couldn't really sit still either, feeling so helpless. No one could seem to focus on anything. Lucien kept busy in the kitchen, making coffee, preparing food, doing dishes. He was very helpful, but I'm sure he wasn't able to sit either. Every time there was breaking news on the TV, the family were sure to PVR every channel, hoping they would hear the development. Media had called the family and other Lafantaisies in town. The family just didn't know what to say to them. That day around 5 p.m., Anna got a call from her daughter who was walking home from work in the Osborne area. She had just seen it blocked off with police tape. She noticed the police officers were surrounding a car similar to Elizabeth's. Anna asked what her license plate number was, and her daughter would try to get a better look and call back. At that point, the family just sat in the living room on the edge of their couches, silently waiting Anna's phone to ring again. For Anna's phone to ring again. The 5 to 10 minutes that went by felt like an hour, and then the phone finally rang, and the daughter confirmed that yes, that's the license plate number on the car. They found mom's car. Okay, they found the purse, they found the rosary, they found the car. And so, like I jumped and said, they put out a statement saying she was supposed to die naturally. What happened? Like, where is she? And, well, we found the car. Okay. So one step closer to finding her. Another step closer to answers. But then minutes later, the police car pulled in and their hearts almost stopped. They're here. What are they here to tell them? The family met the officer at the door, and he didn't need to tell them much. The family could see the sadness on his face. All he said was they found her in her car. He shook his head and grabbed Lisa in his arms. The family just stood in the entrance and cried, hugged and yelled, and the family reacted to what felt like a huge punch to the heart, a kick to the stomach, hearing news that physically hurt. Anna and Lise sobbed in their husband's chest. I can't believe what they must have been going through. That's their mom. Once again, the family all started making phone calls to loved ones before they found out on the 6 o'clock news. After the phone calls, it became mentally and emotionally draining. The immediate family thought there was no way extended family could handle any more news. A few hours later, in the evening, the entire immediate family was gathered in the dining room at Lise and Lucian's. The Winnipeg Police Service were on the phone with Lise to tell them how they had found Elizabeth when they told Lise that they found her in the trunk of her car. Lise let go of the phone and lowered her head. She couldn't listen or speak anymore. Ryan took over the conversation with Winnipeg Police and was able to let the rest of us know what he had just heard. Imagine a family of over 15 people gathered around the kitchen in quiet, sadness. Some asked questions. Oh, Mom, what happened to you? Do you think she suffered? Why would someone do this to her? How did she die? But no one had any answers. To this day, the family still doesn't have some of those answers. So, a couple days later, they arrested Thomas Anthony Brine. The accused was a repeat offender with outstanding warrants. The family planned Elizabeth's funeral. During the days to follow, the family had everything lined up: church, priest, funeral service, lunch, which was donated to them, flowers, an obituary. However, the family had to wait over a week for the coroner's office to release her body. The funeral was held at St. Vital Catholic Church on Tuesday, March the 8th of that year. And Thomas Anthony Joseph Brine, who was wanted for possession of a stolen camcorder and jewelry, and had several convictions for theft and other offenses such as theft under $5,000, theft over $5,000, escape from lawful custody, dangerous operations of a motor vehicle, break and enter, theft, and theft. In May 2005, he was convicted on 9 theft counts, along with a pair of counts failing to comply with court conditions. By 2007, in June, Brine was 21 years old, sentenced to 3 years less a day in a plea deal for a string of thefts, break-ins, that culminated in his arrest, a dramatic car chase by an off-duty Winnipeg police officer. So Brine's convictions included 6 counts of theft, convictions of dangerous operation of a motor vehicle, vehicle theft, escaping lawful custody, and violating court orders. He confessed to being a crack cocaine addict when he was sentenced to stealing vehicles and ripping off CD players. So he's a crackhead. Like any one of these fucking zombies you see wandering down the street, he's stealing for crack, and that's his life. He's a fucking addict, thief, junkie. But he's a thief. He's a junkie thief. He's not. That doesn't make you a murderer. So what happened? Like, why are they arresting him? So, he says, I'm addicted to crack cocaine. That's why all the thefts. They're to feed my habit. And he told that to the judge at sentencing. And he tried to get help before for drug addiction, but failed. And he had to go to a program, but then it didn't work. He smoked crack in the building. And he's just been a fuck up all his life, mostly. So he had a propensity to steal and needed help. And that's going to be your life unless you straighten up, clean up your act, Myers said. So, you know, it's a cycle, it's a system. You have a crackhead, they get into a rehab, they fuck it up, they fail a piss test or whatever it is, and now they got to go back to the homeless shelter and wait until they can get into a rehab again, if they can get into a homeless shelter. Otherwise, either way, once they're not in the rehab, they have no real incentive to stay clean, and they're back to doing what they do, which is, what they already pretty much had been doing, which is being a junkie and stealing and supporting their habit by stealing. So he's like, look, I am what I am. I'm a junkie. I'm a fucking crackhead. I steal. I steal shit. I'm the guy, you just don't leave him around your shit. He's a fucking crackhead. You can't leave your car unlocked. You can't whatever around them. They're fucking gonna rummage through it like a fucking rodent or something. They're on the fucking crack or whatever. He's fucked off of it and he's a thief. So what the fuck are we even talking about, though? He's basically saying the same thing I just said. He's a fuck up. The judge said he had propensity to steal. He needs help. Straighten up your act, young man. I'm going to take as many programs as I can in Headingley. Later on, there was a warrant issued for 3 counts of assault causing bodily harm for an incident involving 4 male victims. The next month, another warrant was issued for 2 counts, possession of goods obtained by crime. And then, he was arrested on March 1st when they announced that he'd been charged with the first-degree murder in Elizabeth Lafantaisie's death. He was also facing 2 charges of possession of goods obtained by crime, 3 counts of assault causing bodily harm, and another charge of assault as a result of 2 outstanding arrest warrants. So he's kind of gone from stealing from parked empty cars to violent muggings, right? And that's how it turns to Gotham. It's that, people are kind of locking their cars because they're noticing a lot of fucking crackheads are fucking going in there. So now they're basically just going to try to strong arm people because everything's locked down. And old ladies sometimes aren't trying to give it up. People think old ladies are the ones to go after. A lot of them are... How dare you type, they're fighting off and you know what, ma, you got it. Or unfortunately it goes left. So I think we kind of figure what happened here. The lawyer's talking to the family about the case. We get to about 2012 and there's a case management meeting held with the defense attorneys. But due to oversight and sharing information and reserved dates, the case management meeting was rescheduled, and a bunch of other hearings and preliminary dates, administrative hearings, and we're into the summer basically, and so he's pled guilty at this point to the assaults. He's handed 15 months for those. He remains in custody. Essentially what happened there was he helped rough up 3 strangers at a bus stop after a co-accused leapt out of his car and confronted the victim saying that it was his territory and his area. So apparently he was involved in strong-arming somebody at a bus stop. He got a simple assault that was dropped. The men suffered various injuries. One was left with a broken jaw, while others' nose was broken. So they stomped some people out here on this one. The third suffered a concussion. No reason had been given as to why the warrant was issued for Brian's arrest. Collected dust for nearly 2 years, but yeah, he had been taking substance abuse and anger management programming while on remand in Headingley. When he got picked up for that, awaiting this murder. And so the preliminary hearing commenced like the following spring. And he was 27 years old by that point. He stood accused on a first-degree murder. He was presumed innocent, obviously, until proven guilty. The task was proving Brian's guilt. It's a burden that's placed on the shoulder of the Crown Attorney, Brian Bell. He's a well-known, highly successful, methodical approach to prosecutions. You know, he's really trying to work with the family. Like, they're trying to put their best foot forward because people really are cared about this woman and are watching it close. And it does make a difference to people. The proceedings were attended by 20-plus family members and supporters of the Lafantaisie family. So if convicted, Brian would automatically be sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. The first-degree murder trial against Brian, it started in October 2014, so it dragged from the spring to the fall. More postponements. So then finally goes to trial. They heard arguments from both sides about 2016, about what will be admissible. So these things take time. It took a jury, you know, so they presented it. It was a jury hearing. He went jury. To me, that's a terrible call. I'm going to put this one on wax. You almost never want to go jury. Like, I don't think you go jury. I don't see why you would want a jury. Go judge. And maybe I'll do an episode on that, but I'm putting it out there. Like, the jury will fucking... They're going to vote with their emotions. You're talking about an old lady like this? You're some fucking crackhead? You mugged her? I wouldn't have gone that route at all, but I don't know who his lawyer was. They haven't mentioned names yet. I've got my suspicions, but I don't know who it could be. So, the jury, well, how long they take on this thing? They don't even mention... Oh, sorry. So... Brian's legal counsel stepped down. There's a lot of postponements because of that. So they're hesitant to even say who managed to take this thing. The guy didn't have a lot going for his case, unfortunately. So they found him guilty of first-degree murder. In the sexual assault and strangling of 73-year-old Elizabeth Lafantaisie. So wait. What? Of 73-year-old Elizabeth Lafantaisie. Like, this guy was in his 20s. So what happened? Like, so it took the jury only 2.5 hours to find Thomas Bryan guilty. That he assaulted and strangled to death and left in the trunk of her car. So, you know, there was relief, there was closure for her family as the jury foreperson delivered the guilty verdict in court. We're so happy that there's been justice for my mother, said Lisa Goslin, one of the Lafantaisie daughters who spoke to reporters after. It won't bring her back, but at least we can go on with our lives. It's been an emotional week. They sat in court listening. For 5 years, they've been wondering how, you know, what could have happened to her. At least now they know. He admitted stealing the cars in the area that were linked to the crime, but held back further information about finding her body until detectives pushed him for answers. At what point do you discover someone's in that trunk? At what point, Thomas? One detective asked Brian. He denied he had anything to do with Lafantaisie's death, but admitted he stole her car. He eventually told detectives how he discovered her lifeless body in the trunk while in a South Winnipeg parkade. Brian told detectives how he left the body in the trunk and took the car through a car wash trying to remove his fingerprints. So So they presented DNA evidence from her body, which was matched his DNA. She had a scarf tied tightly around her neck. She suffered significant bruising to the head, bruising and lacerations to her vagina, and a broken fibula. The cause of death was strangulation. So, what the fuck? Bro, your DNA is on this body. You raped and murdered this old lady. Like, these guys that are wandering around out there, whatever, uh, dangerous. And so, apparently assaulted and murdered her in the parkade of a University Crescent apartment complex. He stuffed her body in the trunk of the car and abandoned the vehicle in Osborne Village. 3 days later, a resident at the apartment complex found the handbag. And we kind of, knew what happened. We thought originally it might have been a purse snatching. Eventually we know she was killed. She left her house for work around 10:30 a.m. She was in a good mood, cheerful person. You could see that the car was taken to the car wash. You couldn't really see the driver. He was trying to eliminate any evidence tying him to the killing, but an autopsy showed the presence of sperm, indicating intercourse at the time of her death. So, yeah, I don't know what a car wash would have done there, bud. You nutted in this granny, so what did you think was going to happen? But, yeah, so I think you can imagine where this is going. It took him 2 hours to convict the guy, as we know. And it took about 5 years to process this whole thing. But he was already in the jail. Yeah, she smelled good. They said that she always dressed to the T. She always looked good, didn't matter where she was. And Buddy was maybe intoxicated with her perfume. So when you get convicted of first-degree murder like that, you're facing 25 years to life, and they're going to drag it even longer so that he's not eligible for parole for even longer because he's a heinous rapist murderer. But the family, the kids, they'll always remember, the grandmother's hugs, the embrace. Yeah. She was a very devout woman, and he faces an automatic life sentence with no chance of parole for 25 years. So everyone has a mama. By all accounts, Elizabeth was a good mother and grandmother. She raised them as a single mother, nursed them to health when they were sick, and was present in their entire lives, babysat their kids, and instilled morals based on dogma to which she was very devout. Beliefs that they now have to question and grasp how things like this happen. One thing about the universe is that there always seems to be a balance, a yin to every yang. One might argue that Thomas Brine was the antithesis to Elizabeth Lafantaisie. He was a young male, selfish addict rapist who roughed up homeless people in bus shelters. Just as Elizabeth has done in her daily prayer, and no doubt kissed her rosary as a faithful servant to the Lord, Thomas was trying to figure out where he could find an old lady to mug, rape, and murder. Perhaps Thomas was too prideful to ride the bus that day, too greedy to go without his fix or to work to make his money. Perhaps he wanted to exact his wrath on Elizabeth, envious of her seemingly comfortable and warm and what he thought was a safe lifestyle and general existence. Thomas was overcome with lustful desires in his rape of the 73-year-old grandmother, perhaps finding her fragrance to be that intoxicating. Gluttonous for more indulgence in his selfish desires, it was not for more crack than Thomas slothfully discarded her belongings at various stairwell locations And around the city, 7 deadly ingredients that prepare the dish of death. So, there was greed, there was lust. He had envy. He was gluttonous for more crack. He was slothful in the way he discarded things. She believed in these things. But we're in a city where our mothers aren't safe walking to their cars and building parkades. A city where a junkie will rob, rape, and murder a 73-year-old grandmother, go about their day like nothing happened. Yet still, we have to learn from this. Always be wary of your surroundings and identify sketchy-looking characters who seemingly do not belong. Check your back seats before you enter your vehicles. Parkades are not safe places. If they can't be avoided, then they must be approached with caution. We have to value our loved ones before they are taken from us. We need effective treatment and supervision of addicted felons. What we have to learn is you can be a good person and still be the victim of bad things. We think we avoid the nightclubs, the bad crowds. If we follow faiths, if we're generally good, then bad things won't happen to us, but they still can find us, and therefore, in some cases, they still will. Grip your rosaries tight tonight and read your Bible, because the devil comes in many disguises. Winnipegology.